Preacher of truth here. I figured I'd do my first video here on why I feel people around the world should start preparing for a disaster, may it be man-made or may it be natural. We're noticing throughout the world right now major events unfolding, bad events, hundreds, thousands of people dying, earthquakes, hurricanes. I mean, it's getting to the point to where we haven't seen this in-depth amount of hurricanes ever. Actually, the sea levels have risen, I believe it's almost 2 feet now in the last few years, like the last 8 years. I mean, it's starting to get to the point to where we have to start questioning what is going on. And it seems like a lot of people out there just don't care. They're so wrapped up in the now, they're not thinking about the what ifs. So this video, I'm going to be talking about preparing. May you be a mother, a father, a couple, you have kids, no kids, you're single, it don't matter. You need to be prepared. We noticed with Hurricane Katrina, there were so many people not prepared, and look at the devastation that was caused. I mean, we're still trying to dig our way out of that aftermath. So being prepared, people look at it as, oh my God, they're preppers, they're crazy, oh my God, they think the end of the world. No, not all preppers are thinking the end of the world. I myself am a prepper. Good example, I live in the northern part of the United States. Just a few weeks ago, we had a power outage. It didn't last very long, but it is the den of winter. It was about 20 below, and we were out of power for 8 hours. If I didn't have a backup energy source and a backup heating source for my family, we would have been sitting out in one of our pickup trucks trying to stay warm. That's what prepping's all about. Prepping's about being prepared for any type of situation, may it be a 2-hour situation or a 2-week situation. So just think about that for a couple of minutes. Now, like I was saying, we're noticing a lot of hurricanes, sea level rises, a lot of bad things happening in the world. And another good thing to point out here with like the earthquakes is that, you know, our scientists, it's always best guess when it comes to science, but at the same time, they do have a pretty decent predicting ability, way better than the weather service. Let's not even get into the weather service. But natural disasters happen all the time, and being prepared is one of the most important things. Now, another thing that doesn't get really talked about, solar flares coming off the sun. I mean, it was earlier this summer in 2015 that knocked out radio communications in part of the world for a good while. This was just one solar flare, and it wasn't even a big one. So it kind of gives you an idea. Being prepared is very important, and you got to be ready. I mean, I'm not saying that you need to go out and build a bunker. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy a tank. I'm saying that you just need to be prepared for any type of natural disaster or man-made disaster. Now, one of the things that's been getting brought up a lot is EMP attack. Now, my opinion on it, could it happen? Yeah, it could happen. It could happen anywhere at any point. Any country could do it to another country. We could do it to any other country if we truly wanted to, because yes, we do have the means of this technology. They just don't publicize it at all because they don't want to scare the American people nor the world nations, you know. So, thinking about it, just think about it. I mean, kind of an issue, you know. I mean, you got to be kind of thinking about preparedness, especially if you have others that rely on you. I mean, a good portion of what we've been talking about is all natural disaster, you know, with the exception of the EMP. But one thing a lot of people don't realize is look at some of the situations that's happened in the United States of recent. You know, rioting, militia. There was a few cities that went under martial law of recent due to terrorist attacks. I mean, curfews were implemented, and it affects the people of that country, of that area, more than anybody would really understand. And being that, like, people in the United States haven't really had to deal with a martial law situation, they don't really realize how bad it truly is. I mean, you're talking soldiers standing on your deck with their M16 grenades. Let me tell you something. It's something you don't want to see. And getting towards this is where I'm kind of leaning towards now with the economic status of our country. We're almost $20 trillion in debt. And it continues to get deeper and deeper. I mean, Obamacare has completely crushed the medical industry, and it's only getting worse. So it's something to think about. Prepare yourself for any type of situation. Now, moving forward here a little bit, that's where I'm getting a little bit in depth here now with what's going on with our militaries across the world, and the current economic status. This is a serious situation that people are not really thinking about, and you need to start. And I'm going to explain why. I'm going to show you guys a few more pictures and a few more areas of why you need to start thinking about it. Now, our military has been being cut and cut and cut and cut over the last 6 years. I mean, it's gotten ridiculous. Generals have been basically forced to retire or fired, and it seems like our U.S. military continues to dwindle, and not any American people, besides a few, are standing up and actually saying something about it. Even right now with the presidential elections going on, nobody's even thinking about what is going on with our military, and that's scary. I mean, look at ISIS right now. ISIS is a prime example of we should have an extremely strong military force. The military is the only thing that's going to stop them, plain and simple. So, military being cut back, probably not a good thing. A lot of people don't think about it, but you need to start. Preparedness. Now, this is a subject I really don't like to talk about, because my feelings on it is it could happen, and it could happen very soon, especially with the elections going on, and depending who becomes our next president. Let's just hope that Trump nor Clinton get in, otherwise we're going to be in a world of hurt, literally, world of hurt. The Middle East is blowing up right now, and I mean, it's gotten to the point to where if we don't do something to stop it, it's going to blow up in our faces. It's going to be right in our backyards. We're going to start having terrorist attacks everywhere, anywhere. I mean, that's the bad part. ISIS has made a terrorist cell that doesn't work on the old methods. They go out through social media via the internet, and they recruit people this way. And one person can become a terrorist cell now. And that is just crazy to think. Your neighbor, your next door neighbor. So, preparedness. Now, moving forward a little bit, the Obama situation with gun control. I am a gun owner. I am an avid hunter. I am an avid fisherman. I'm an avid outdoorsman. I believe in the right to bear arms. A lot of people, though, don't understand that the Second Amendment isn't the fact that you can own a gun. The Second Amendment is the fact that if areas within the United States need to form militias due to a threat, may it be foreign or domestic, the American people have the ability and the firepower to be able to stand up and protect themselves from a foreign invasion or from anything from that matter. That's what truly the Second Amendment is about. Not the fact that I can own a gun. It's the right to bear arms and form militia in case. Now, I understand automatic weapons do a lot of damage, and it's horrible. I'm a father. I wouldn't want to think about that in my sons in my schools. But by putting these gun bans in, we're only making it worse for the American people. We're basically tying our hands. 1935, China implemented their Gun Control Act, basically. For 13 years, they did literally nothing. Nothing. And then, all of a sudden, in 1948, the Chinese government decided they wanted to confiscate all the weapons so that nobody could use them against them, in-house, so to speak. Well, 1948 through 1951, 20 million people died during the gun confiscation period. 20 million people. This is in 1948, 1950. It's 2016. you would have to pretty much quadruple those numbers, if not more, to get what would happen nowadays if they did a full-blown gun control. You're talking 80 million, 100 million people. You need to think about it. Second Amendment, it's just not the right to own a gun. It's the right to be able to form a militia in the situation of a hostile situation, of somebody coming into our backyard and threatening our lives. If they do this, they're starting the steps in making it to where we cannot protect ourselves as American people. So, preparedness, think about it. Now, I want to throw this video on here a little bit, just talk about one thing, a little bit more on the gun control and whatnot with what happened just recently with the State of the Union address. So here, watch this.
Much less safe about terror attacks. Only 43% of Americans now say they are satisfied with the nation's security from terrorism. That's down 16 points from this time last year, 26 points from January 2014. Satisfaction with the nation's military strength and preparedness also falling, down 10 points from last year, now at 59%. That's a complicated one, though, Stephen, because you can love the military, as I do as a military brat, as we all do as Americans, but if their hands are tied through engagement rules, there's not much more they can do. But the other thing the government can wear, like a tight shirt, the fact that people don't feel like they're being kept safe.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think what the UN study does is it puts numbers to the abundant anecdotal evidence that we had about what ISIS was doing in Iraq and in Syria. But I'm not surprised by the findings of the American people and the fact that they're now far more attuned to the prospect of a terrorist attack here at home. Because remember, President Obama has spent the better part of his presidency, certainly leading up to the 2012 elections and in the aftermath, telling the American people that we didn't have much to worry about. Al-Qaeda was on the run, Al-Qaeda was decimated. There were speeches that he gave, that his senior counterterrorism advisors gave, saying jihadism basically would end by the end of this decade. He tried to create this sense of security, and I would argue it's a false sense of security, and unfortunately what we've seen by observing ISIS both in the region and ISIS-inspired and perhaps ISIS-directed attacks here at home is that...
Right there. 40% of the population feels safe. Well, I'm telling you, I don't feel safe. I don't believe anybody should feel safe, especially in the current status with ISIS and the abilities that they have. Their reach is a lot farther than anybody ever anticipated, ever. Preparedness. Now, I'm going to show you guys a few things here, and this is just something that everybody needs to be aware of. Right now, military strength, kind of backtracking, but very important. The Chinese military strength currently, looking at their statistics, total population over 1.3 billion. Available manpower, 749 million. Fit for service, 618 million. I mean, it's just, the Chinese government, the Chinese military is very strong. Very strong. Active frontline personnel, 2,300,000. Reserve, 2,300,000. You're talking 4.6 million military men and women. That's a lot. That's a lot. And scrolling down, looking at their tanks, looking at their towered artillery, self-propelled guns, I mean, they've got a pretty substantial military constructed and built now. They are very prepared and very ready for any type of war. And continuing on, look at the United States. Total population of 320 million. That's it. Active frontline personnel, 1.4 million. Reserves, 1.1 million. Those numbers are a lot different than 4.6. You're talking 2.5 to 4.6 million. They've got almost double the military personnel that we do. Looking at like some of our military strength and the tanks, self-propelled guns, sure, it looks pretty good. But when you start going back and looking at what they have, I mean, we do have a little stronger force, so to speak, with our tanks, with our Air Force, with our aircraft, helicopters, and everything. But the manpower is important. And people don't realize that our military has been basically being downsized for the last 6 years. And nobody even cares. Nobody's even thinking about it. Everybody says, bring the troops home. Well, I agree. I hate to see any troop gone away from his family, away from her family, away from her kids. But at the same time, by doing this, we've really kept ourselves wide open for any type of attack from anywhere, anybody. Now, looking at Russia's military real quick, 1.42 million people, total population, like half of what we are. Okay? But look at active frontline personnel, 7.6. Active reserves, 2.4 million. I mean, they've got about the same size military strength that we do. Then if you start looking through the tanks and through the aircraft and everything, we do have higher numbers in some fields. But at the same time, they have higher numbers in some fields. Like if you look at the tanks, they've got 15,000. You look at our tanks, we've got 8,800. Kind of a good example. But like armored fighting vehicles, we've got 41,000. They've got 31,000. See what I mean? So the numbers are a little different, but at the same time, you cannot look at it as we've got more tanks than they do. You have to look at the all-around total military force, and quite frankly, the U.S. military is not the strongest force to be reckoned with anymore. It really isn't. Other countries are completely catching up to us. So, preparedness, getting ready. Now, I'm going to show you guys a few things. Now, what I mean by preparedness. Now, I'm not saying that you got to go out tomorrow and start buying all this stuff. No. Think about it, though. Just think about it, because I'm telling you, a generator, for example. Sure, you might only use that generator maybe once, twice a year. Power goes out, whatnot. But that time, or those 2 times or 3 times that the power does go out, okay, you will have a means to be able to keep your house going, keep the water flowing, you know, keep a TV going for your kids. So it makes it a little easier. Because I'm telling you, not just Americans, but people around the world don't realize what it would be like to go back to the Stone Age. No power, no fuel, no transportation. You want to go do something, you're walking, you're hoofing, or you're jumping on a horse. Hey man, nobody realizes how difficult that's going to be. So, you know, power. You can pick up a nice, and I mean nice, used generator, and I've bought one of these before. These little portable, they're about 1,000 watts. They cost about 125 bucks. I owned one. I had it for a couple of years. We used it, I bet you, a dozen times, and it worked great. We ran all the lights in the house. We ran TVs. It was like the power wasn't even out. We have upgraded since then. We've got a bigger one now, one that can run multiple things. But you also got to think about your fuel efficiency, so keep that in mind. You don't want to be running a generator that uses 6 gallons of gas in 6 hours to try to survive on for 2 months, is all I'm getting at. Think about it, put a little thought into it, but it's very important. Medical supplies. Medical supplies, very important. Now, a lot of people around the world are on medications. They take medications for blood pressure, for hearts, for everything. Now, most people only have about a month's supply of their medications at a time. So if you can try to figure out how you can turn that into having 2 months, you know, like when you go to get your prescription renewed, you have a whole nother month of your medications still sitting in the cupboard. Great idea. Just think about it. And basic medical supplies, bandages, first aid kit, things like that. Very important that you have it. Now, I'm not saying go out and spend $300 on this Swift Deluxe Trauma Kit. No. A lot of people can't. Some people can, a lot of people can't. But you could take a $50 bill and you could take that to your local dollar store. And I tell you what, you can walk out of there with an unbelievable medical kit. Unbelievable. Bandages, you know, aspirin, ibuprofen, you know, rubbing alcohol, everything, hydroperoxide. I mean, you could walk out of there with $50 worth of items and have a really decent medical supply kit. I have taken my medical supply kit up a little bit. I've been doing this for a few years now because I see the strain and stress across the world in all sorts of situations, like I said, natural or man-made disasters, and it continues to get worse. So I've slowly been kind of collecting things over a few years to be ready if my family and I ever have to, go off the grid for a couple of months or staying home for a couple of months with nothing. I'm talking no supplies, no nothing. You want to be ready. And medical supplies are very important. Firearms. I can't stress enough, just owning a firearm for protection, in-home protection, anything. I mean, you never know. You just never know. Now, I understand firearms are expensive. Not everybody can just go out and buy one. The average gun will cost you around $300. But there are means where you can buy used firearms from anywhere. I mean, and you don't have to have the best of the best. Good example, Smith & Wesson has this, what's called an SD9VE. Brand new, it's about a $300 gun. You can pick them up used for about $200. It's a great gun, very reliable. I actually own a 40, an SD40, and I love it. I love the gun. Reliable, and it's great. Another good gun to own would be a shotgun. Great for in-home protection, and not just in-home protection, but if you ever have to go out and shoot a grouse or pick off a couple of birds or a couple of squirrels to feed the family, you got the means. And the other gun I believe that everybody should own is a rifle. Now, I'm not saying you need an assault rifle, no, but you should have a decent working rifle. 270, 30-06, 30-30, a decent working rifle. And my reason behind that is a 12 gauge or a pistol are not going to take down a big game. They're not going to take down a deer. Well, they could, but it's not as easy as some people think. It's not going to take down a bear, where difference is if you have a 30-06 or a 7mm mag or anything like that, you have the ability to take down those types of bigger animals to survive. So, like I said, my suggestion is a pistol, a good shotgun, and a good rifle. Now, if you were to go and buy all these used, yes, you're probably going to spend upwards of around $700, about $300 for a decent rifle, about $200 for a decent handgun, and about $200 for a decent used shotgun. But trust me when I say it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So, think about it. Preparedness, firearms, you never know. And last but not least, one of the most important things that you do want to keep stocked up for any type of disaster, natural or man-made, food and water. Now, I have developed my own system for my family. Food and water, I kind of went to what I call the 4-can system. 4 cans of food per person per day. Enough to sustain life and keep you moving. I mean, granted, most cans of food, if you look at soups or chilies or even Chef Boyardee, they only have around 200 to 250 calories per can. It's not a lot. 4 cans is only 1,000 calories. The average diet, they recommend you take in 2,000 calories a day. So my 4-can rule is based on sustaining life. Now you take that into example. Family of 5. 4 cans of food per day per person. 20 cans a day. Now you look at 10 days. 200 cans. Then you look at a month. 30 days. 600 cans of food. That's a lot of food. That is a lot. I mean, a lot of people don't think about it, but that would fill a 3-by-6 foot closet. That's a lot of food. It would completely fill it from brim to brim. Probably be overflowing. So, kind of think about it. To put together a 1-month food budget ain't going to be cheap, but it'll be worth it. You're going to want to have at least a month's worth of food just stocked away in case. Water. I know everybody says the average human being should drink at least a gallon of water a day. That is very true. And getting water in a situation of natural or man-made disaster is very difficult. If you live in a city, the power goes out, pumps go down, you don't have running water coming to your faucets. So it's something to think about. Now, storing water is a lot more difficult. It takes up a lot of room. So, and my recommendation here is start out small. Try to get yourself about a week's worth of water supply together, and then build on it, and build on it, and build on it. And make sure that you're constantly checking your water supply, because yes, when I say water can become tainted, it can. if one of those plastic bottles has a pinhole in it or something, that water will slowly get air, and not just air, but other germs and bacteria that can get into that bottle. So keep an eye on your food stock and keep an eye on your water stock, because when the time comes, you want to make sure that it's still going to work for you. Now, I know this took up about 26 minutes of you guys' time, and I apologize for that. I'm glad that you did watch the video, and I'm hoping that you guys seen that being prepared for any type of disaster is very important. And I hope that maybe at least 1 or 2 people from this video start realizing that they need to prepare their family. They need to prepare themselves for what could happen. Preacher of the truth here, signing off. Thank you.